Hi guys and welcome. This is Jen Gaeta Siciliano, artist, memoir writer, bipolar psychiatric survivor, and your host of Not As Crazy As You Think podcast, the place that offers an alternative perspective on mental illness, highlighting creativity, non-conventional healing, and breaking on through to the other side. If you are ready for a new narrative on the mental realm that celebrates crazy and cool without penalty, then Not As Crazy As You Think is for you. Hello, this is Jen Gaeta Siciliano, your host of Not As Crazy As You Think podcast. I just want to tell my listeners that I'm sorry because I've been pretty much away for the whole month of July, but today I am returning in August 2022 with a fantastic guest. Meet Michelle Williams. She's a women's holistic healer. She has studied and practiced different food philosophies, including intuitive eating and veganism, but for the past 6 years has promoted the MACRObiotic lifestyle. Michelle teaches cooking classes online and in person, gives lifestyle consultations and meal plans, provides crystal and palm energy healing in the pursuit of helping sensitive women achieve ultimate health and happiness through the power of nature. Michelle, you're an inspiration. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you're an inspiration too.
Oh, thank you so much. So we're getting together and we're creating some power here. I love it. So one thing that you also are a part of is your own podcast.
Yeah. My title of my podcast is MacroMagic with Michelle. And I started it a couple years ago. It was in the beginning of me presenting myself as someone of service. And I was having a difficult time, I guess in person, navigating this profession in real life. And I kind of got burnt out pretty quickly. And I just thought, well, there's still a lot of things I want to talk about. So I started my podcast, and my podcast is all about different things that help us heal. So of course I talk about my own journey, but I also have guests on there that come from different backgrounds. And how I choose my guests is basically if I feel like they have something to offer in terms of like mostly alternative ways of healing, then I have them on. And I've had different nutritionists, astrologers, musicians, all different kinds of people that offer alternative ways of healing.
Well, that's my thing. I mean, it's all about the alternative healing journey because so far the system has let us both down. And, you have had a very interesting journey. And I think that's why I'm so attracted to what you represent, because I think a lot of people get pulled into this mental health care system and they're looking for healing. But that's not really what that healthcare system is set up to do. It doesn't believe in healing. It doesn't believe in, a person can take the reins and steer their own journey in healing. And you provide so many modalities to do that, which is just thrilling to me because that's, I feel, what's most needed. And you're so much younger than I am. So you're doing this, and I've been, waiting around for people like you to come forward. So again, I thank you for that. Can you share a little bit about your journey through the mental health care system? Because I know that you've had a great deal of mental distress in different times in your life, and you had reached out to psychiatry and was given a diagnosis and offered a course of treatment with medications and didn't have a good time. And then this is where you decided to change gears. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, I struggled with my mental health as early as my first memories, and I didn't think anything was wrong with it. I just thought that's how I was. And it wasn't until someone in my family got diagnosed with several different things that I started to think, well, maybe I'm like that. And I was kind of scared to talk about it because my family, there really wasn't open discussion about feelings,
Right.
especially me being so sensitive. I just had experienced already my whole childhood. Anytime I cried, anytime, I showed emotion, it was like
Right.
I was like a burden, basically.
Hmm.
So to talk about this struggle that I was feeling, it was very scary. And so I thought, well, maybe if I angle it as, well, I'm tired. I'm tired. I always feel tired. Maybe, my mom will take me to the doctor and the doctor can do something for me.
Hmm.
Well, I got to the doctor and I was so stressed out. I had so much, I was holding in, that as soon as I got into the room alone with the doctor, this was, I was 16 years old. I just burst out into tears.
Mm.
And she immediately wrote me a prescription for Prozac, and the rest is history.
Wow. And was this your general practitioner?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it was as simple as that. It was as easy as that.
Yeah. Less than 5 minutes.
Wow. It's amazing how they do it. So she didn't necessarily encourage you to see a psychiatrist yet. She just offered the meds.
Yeah. It's funny because you say offer. I never saw it that way. I saw it as, well, this is what it is. Well, there's no other way. That's all we have for you. That's all that can help.
Right.
Because this person in my family, like I said, I had already seen her take medication, go to the mental hospital, go to therapy. So in my mind, all these people today talk about stigma. I had no stigma because I was like, well, my family member did that. What?
Right.
That's what I have to do too. And even today, people still talk about there's a stigma. I don't think there's a stigma. I really don't. And I think you can relate too, because you have more experience in this field, even before me.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a stigma before, but now it's like,
Yeah, it seems like people want to embrace this thing.
yes.
And I'm thinking to myself, why? Like, it's interesting because I listen to so much of your medicated Michelle, I guess, series inside your podcast. And that's a great one for anyone who's interested in getting off of psych meds because, and this is something I want to talk to you about because I just found it to be so great that somebody else is going through this. Okay. Because when people are finally able to come forward and tell their story and speak about it in the name of, I guess, to me, the stigma now is almost like if you're anti meds, there's a stigma to that. Yep. So it's interesting because what it really shows is that they've been very successful with their ad campaigns with teaching everybody about their, biomedical model. And it really, it's well, we both know it's bullshit. And the thing is, that's wonderful is, I mean, you really come forward and share so much of the, of that angle. And you've also shared that a lot of people have reached out to you saying, hey, what you're doing is wrong, that you're talking about this. Like, you shouldn't encourage people to get off the meds. Some people need them. I love that. Some people need it. If people saw my record in their books, they would be like, oh my God, get her on meds immediately because she's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, my thing looks so terrible, and so that because I'm bipolar, in their minds I fit the bipolar perfectly, so what is it, what is this about, this thing that people are always questioning us when we are questioning the system? Like, how do you experience that?
Yes, I mean, I was experiencing that just even a few years into taking medication. One of the medications, if the listeners want to check out, I have an episode called 15 milligrams Zyprexa. Mm-hmm. And that was the first jolt of hello, is this okay? Question this, because I started gaining weight. Mm-hmm. Immediately. Right. Within 2 weeks, I already gained 15 pounds. And, you're supposed to check in with your psychiatrist every month. I called her early and I said, I'm gaining weight. And she said, okay, yeah, come in. And the thing was, which is so interesting, is that this psychiatrist was the best one I had. But yet when I came in and I told her, I don't think this medication's right for me, I'm gaining weight, she immediately dismissed me. No, that's because you binge eat. And the thing was about this psychiatrist is that she had been a binge eater herself.
Really?
And she just immediately dismissed me like, no, it's because you binge eat. But it's like, I think people who get upset about me questioning the normal route of mental health, I think how they're thinking is that, well, she's just immediately writing something off. Like she has put no thought or no self-reflection into all the factors. I have put thought and I have put a lot of self-reflection.
Yes.
Because I saw throughout my journey that my doctors didn't give a poop emoji about what I was going through. And can I cuss on this?
Of course.
Okay. Okay. So I was like, and they only spend like 5 minutes with me. And all they do is write me more prescriptions. There has never been one psychiatrist that ever said, okay, let's lower it. Never.
No.
Every time I come in, I'm going all over the place, but every time I came in with an issue, I can't sleep. I have no appetite. I'm gaining weight. I'm shaking. I'm running through red lights. They never said, oh, well, maybe let's lower your dosage. Never. It was always, oh, let's increase. Let's add another medication. So I self-reflected a lot because I knew none of these doctors were helping me. They didn't care what I had to say. So I had to self-reflect. I had to like that meme of that Always Sunny in Philadelphia, that with all the numbers. I had to do that. Yeah. So I was constantly self-reflecting and thinking. And the thing was, when that happened, when I gained that weight, yes, I understood, yes, I'm a binge eater. But at the same time, how long had I been doing that? I'd been doing it for the past 4 years. I had never gained this much weight this quickly. Right. And I had not changed my frequency or the amount of food that I was eating. It was consistent. So why magically, all of a sudden I start this pill, all of a sudden now I gain weight from binge eating?
Well, that's the other thing. It's very interesting with these medications because I had gained a lot of weight on one too. And they don't, and this is what I have interest in your, exploration, your professional choices in the healing arts and food, because they don't see that as being a major problem. When you gain a lot of weight, especially all at once, that's hard on your organs. That's hard on your system. That's hard on your heart. Why would they accept that as an appropriate side effect? But this is what they do. They don't see these things as real reasons to get you off. They don't see it as being, okay, well, what is her life without the meds? And what is her life with the meds? They never compare that. Once you get on the meds, it's always the meds are better. The life with meds is better. And you have to deal with whatever side effects come your way. And I remember my side effects were just like crippling. I couldn't do anything in my 20s. I mean, because back in the day, this was in the 90s. So back in the day, those were like, that was before the next generation of medications came, I think it was like atypical psychotics. We had the antipsychotics, which were just straight out really, really hard in your system. So like I was to the point where, I was a theater person. I was on stage, singing and dancing, and I wasn't even able to speak. I was like, this is what you think is healing? Like this, now the new me is the healed me. Like I just couldn't believe their theories and their philosophies. The philosophy down deep is just so wrong that for anybody to believe, and I don't care, if someone is listening to my podcast right now and if they think I'm wrong, please, I ask you, shut it off, because I will not stop talking about this. I am 51 years old. I've been dealing with this forever. And finally, we have some young people who are having the balls and the courage to come forward. So, once again, I totally thank you for doing what you've done. Now, I know that you had done a podcast about, having to get yourself off these meds, as many people do. I have to get pretty much myself off them. I have the help of a cannabis doctor who's prescribing, because she happens to be a gynecologist. So she's helping me prescribe the compound liquid so I could do this safely, because it's been 27 years for me that I've been on this forcibly. So how did you go about getting yourself off without a doctor helping you?
Yeah, well, I had tried. I had 2 attempts. The first attempt went horribly wrong, and the second one was, successful. But the first time around, it was because, like I mentioned, Zyprexa, I had gained 100 pounds. I had basically doubled my weight. I had doubled my weight. You might have to put a trigger warning for people that are sensitive to EDs. But yeah, I was a ballet dancer. I was 5'2". I just started my undergrad, my college dance major was dance. To gain that much weight when your whole career path is your physical coordination and balance. I gained 100 pounds within a year because of Zyprexa. And I had been seeing this psychiatrist that prescribed it to me, and I thought, you know what? I keep mentioning to her, she keeps basically gaslighting me. And I said, I have to find a new person. And by this point, I had already been through maybe 5 psychiatrists. So friends out there that think, well, Michelle, you just need to find the right psychiatrist. Well, I already went through 5 psychiatrists, and I would go through a couple more, make it about 10 psychiatrists I've been to, and they all have the same mentality. So I don't think people giving that reason or giving that justification, well, there's good psychiatrists and bad psychiatrists. No, no, they all have the same mentality. It's not good or bad. It's just that's their mentality.
Right.
But so I saw a new psychiatrist, and I thought, well, she's going to hear me out. She's going to have empathy for me. She's going to, we're going to be on the same page. No.
No.
No, she was not. And by that point, I felt so defeated in so many areas of my life that it was kind of like, again, trigger warning. It's kind of like you've been abused so much that you're just like, whatever.
Yes.
Okay, just let it happen. Okay, fine.
Yes.
And so I was, even though I was still mentioning like, yeah, well, I can't sleep and I'm gaining weight. Still no change. In fact, I think she increased my dosage on some medication. But so after maybe like 3 years, okay, 3 years of dealing with this new psychiatrist, it really came to me like I have to do something.
Yeah.
No one's helping me. I got to do something, and I know it's this medication.
Yeah.
So I started to taper myself off of only Zyprexa. But as I was doing that, my weight wasn't going down. My mood got worse. So you see, this is why it's part of why it's so hard to get yourself off medication. You don't have the support of your doctors.
Right.
And also my therapist was also gaslighting me because the therapist and the psychiatrist are best friends and they're on the same team. So of course I couldn't talk to my therapist about it because she's like, well, your doctor knows what she's doing. I'm like, no, she doesn't.
Oh.
Anyway, so I eventually took myself off of Zyprexa. I was still on my other medications. I was on Lamictal, Prozac, and Ativan. It was a perfect storm. I was in a very toxic relationship with a guy, and a situation happened where I got really upset. And from there, everything just went crashing down. I stopped taking all my medications, which wasn't my intention, but just because I felt emotionally just like hopeless.
Yeah.
I even stopped taking care of myself. And then eventually I had to go back on medication. And then after a couple years, because now after having that experience, then immediately when I got back on medication, my psychiatrist just wrote me a new prescription. She said, okay, fine, no more Zyprexa. And she wrote me a new prescription. It took less than 5 minutes. Why couldn't she have done that like 3 years ago when I first met her? Why did I have to go through that? And now that I know that about benzodiazepines, that it's a very serious risk you're taking if you just stop taking them.
Yes.
Like, I didn't know that. I had no idea. And so it's like, why ignore your patient's cries for help when you know that there's such a extreme consequence possibly of them just stopping it? Why not just listen to what they're saying and say, okay, fine. If that's your thing, if you're a doctor and all you do is write prescriptions, why not just write me a freaking new prescription?
Right.
That's when I realized, like, these people, they're not empathetic.
No.
They're not thinking on a human level. They're just following their indoctrination, basically.
Exactly. You have it exactly right. I mean, that's why I love listening to you, because the way you speak about it is just so honest and pure without any of it's like you see right through it. And it is an indoctrination, and it isn't science. See, they think like, I almost feel sorry for them in a way, because for them to believe that what they're doing is helping people. I mean, I know people, okay, who go to psychiatrists who have told me, well, I know, I like what you're doing, Jen, but I don't really want to hear you too much about the psychiatrist, because I love my psychiatrist. And, I love the cocktail that I'm finally on. It took me 15 years to get it right. And I'm thinking, it's not going to stay right, because your body's going to change, your chemistry is going to change, and then you're going to need something else to depend on to control your mood, because that's all it is. It's a controlling agent. It is a drug. People forget this idea that, drugs are, helping us to achieve balance emotionally, when this is not a reality. The only things that most of these things do they're like tranquilizing agents. Yeah. So I know that, it's easy not to feel anything, and including all the pain that we suffer when we're tranquilized. So we think that we're feeling better. I never felt better. Okay. I always would much rather have felt the pain. You know what I mean? Like, that was just me as an artist. I wanted to like go deep into the bouts of but nobody wanted to see me like that. So it was more like everyone else around me was like, you better take those meds, Yeah. And I also have a bit of a thing where, I go into these shamanic journeys, and that was because I had a near-death experience and all this crazy stuff. But the thing is, they didn't want to hear my stories and my opinions about it, because they were too woo-woo or you know what I mean? Like, out there. Meanwhile, finally, people are coming forward. So again, I think it's so great that you are finding the courage to show the flaws within the system, because one thing that you mentioned, which I thought was brilliant, was, that healing is not really what the goal is with them, right? But it's just relieving pain. And we believe that this, like, getting rid of pain is a good thing, but it comes with all these other problems. And, that's obviously what you're speaking about. But how did you know when this was just not the way that you were going to go down, and you were going to take care of these problems that arose from this medication treatment in a new way?
Yeah, that was 2014. My first attempt to come off of Zyprexa, that happened in 2011. So it had been a couple years later, and I had already, ever since that, I had this not new, but I guess more developed sense of what the system was. Mm-hmm. Because I had also been to higher level care in between that time for my ED, and more experience with psychiatrists. So I saw what what it was. And I just knew, like, it wasn't like I was going through those few years thinking like, well, at some point I'm going to come off. My mentality was like, these people don't know what they're doing.
Mhm.
It's a messed up industry. That's my mentality. So in 2014, a lot of big life changes happened to me. I started my career as a ballet teacher. I also kind of had I wouldn't say near-death experience, maybe in the same way that you're talking about. Like, it wasn't like I started to go to the other side, but someone did try to take my life. My abuser,
Wow.
my whole life, my lifetime abuser, because I had to live with them because they're part of my family. It's the whole thing. So I was homeless for a minute, and so after that, you know, which is so funny because it's like you would think maybe that experience would really shake someone up, but I felt more empowered because I was like, I'm leaving that place. Yeah. I'm on my own. I can take care of myself. So I felt more empowered. And so it was a struggle to pay my rent. It was a struggle to put gas in my car. It was a struggle to have enough money to buy food. So on top of that, my parents for the past few years had been like, we're not paying for any of your medication, your therapist, your psychiatrist, which I completely understand. Because if you just add up all those years of therapy, psychiatry, medication, treatment centers, that's a lot of freaking money.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just me. Pretty much everyone, all the children in my family also had that same lifestyle. So that's a lot of money. So I don't blame them, but it was financially difficult. And at the same time, I just graduated from college. I couldn't get a job right away. And also I'm a dance teacher. Like, how much money can I really make? Yeah. So it just came to the point where I had some different factors in my life. And I thought, you know what, maybe, and now I was at a new psychiatrist. I said, maybe this will be a good point where I can bring it up to my psychiatrist and maybe we can start to taper, you know?
Yeah.
Because I felt good. I was not engaging in my ED behaviors. I was free from, you know, my abuser. Like, I felt really good in a lot of ways. So, but my psychiatrist, her exact words were, absolutely not. You have a chemical imbalance. You have to take these drugs for the rest of your life.
Oh my goodness. It's disgusting. I have to say, because now all of a sudden they're coming out with, I don't know if you follow her, Joanne Moncrief.
No.
She's a UK doctor who she wrote the chemical imbalance myth. I think that's what it was called, myth of the chemical imbalance, many years ago. Like, you know, I can't remember when, maybe 10, 15 years ago. But within the last few years, they've been doing a study to prove it, because they have to get peer-reviewed studies in there, and nobody has done this yet, right? And everyone is seeing that based on all the data, the people who stay on antidepressants long term do not do better than the people who don't take them and declare that they're depressed. So if this is the case, and now everyone's like, oh, you mean it's not a chemical imbalance? Like, they're finally saying, wait, this is just a theory. And there's a lot of, you know, people who are happy about this realization. And then naturally, there's a lot of people who are defending their field, right? So, but it's just so funny because now that this has been coming out these last few months and everything, all of a sudden a lot of psychiatrists are saying, well, we never said that it was a chemical imbalance.
Oh my, that's what they do.
It's such bullshit. It just drives me crazy.
Yeah, that's what they do. Oh my God. So someone very close to me, okay, she works in that field. And when I first started being more having an opinion about this on my social media, she saw it and she would send me DMs like, psychiatrists would never say that. I'm like,
oh God.
What? So you're telling me what I have heard 10 plus times, because I had 10 different psychiatrists, that wasn't real?
Yeah. That's the gaslighting. They don't want to hear our opinions. And that's the other thing too. Once you're labeled with any one of these labels that are mental illness labels, nobody trusts anything that comes out of your mouth.
Yeah.
So it's like, I know for years I've just been talking and people would just look at me with glassy eyes like, okay, is she finishing? Okay, let's continue and just distract her from her comments, And it's just the most unfair thing. And that's why it cracks me up when people, it's interesting that you brought up that idea that there is really no stigma right now. And there's so many ways to look at that, but it's true in a sense because people have fully embraced this. People want help, and that's wonderful. Everyone should be getting some kind of help. But the fact that they only look at one area as the ones who are the experts, and those are all the ones that are funded, by insurance programs. It's so sad to me, because I'm in the schools too, and I teach art, and I see how these kids, they're so quick to say that there's something wrong with the child, and in order to help these, like for instance, my child, he's 15 years ago, he needed a little extra help in reading, and I was an English major, so like I should have just done it, and I did just do it because I was like, forget this. The solution to what they came up with was, well, why don't you go in to get a diagnosis for your son so that if he has ADHD written down, then he could just easily get extra reading help paid for. And I was so highly offended. Of course, they have no idea who I am, right? Yeah. I was like, I am completely against this philosophy. I'm just letting you right now. That will never, ever happen, but it's so sad because it's not just people who've bought into it because they want help. And then that's a good thing, right? They're trying to get help for themselves. It's all these other people who have bought into it because it's inextricably intertwined with all other areas of the system, whether it's legal. I know I've been affected by legalities about it. School things. It seems to me that the whole Western medical approach is basically there to take your money, and make you reliant upon them.
Yep. 1,000%. 1,000%. Now I think Western medicine, the aspect of like surgery, life-saving surgery. Sure. I feel like that is the best thing that Western medicine can give us.
Yes.
But the pharmaceuticals, do you know how it started?
Tell us, please. Enlighten us.
Okay, you ever heard of Rockefeller?
Oh, sure.
The oil tycoon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, Rockefeller, he got rich off of the oil industry. But as a result of creating, what he needed for the cars and whatever other machines need oil, or there was a chemical left over. And at the time, people were really into vitamins. And he thought, well, how can I, of course, he's one of the richest people ever, maybe. He's thinking like a businessman. Well, what can I do with this leftover? Let's not waste it. Let's make some money. And so he thought, well, let's market it as medicine. Oh, so they took the leftover chemicals and said, this is medicine, and went to all the schools that were teaching medicine and said, this is a new medicine. And also put down that natural stuff. Oh, because that's old. Yeah. Whatever, old knowledge. It's archaic. Herbs, nah. Right. Lifestyle, nah. And so that's what happened. That's how we got our medication. It wasn't, people think, well, my doctors, there's a whole research. They created this medicine specifically for my illness. No, they made the pill. They needed someone to sell it to. And that's you. That's what happened.
Right. Well, it's interesting because you always think, I remember hearing that you were mentioning that too on your podcast, and you always think like these, like, I always think to myself, like, what the hell is it? Like the stuff that they're giving you, because I'm very particular about what I put into my body, especially since, the tapering process. But even within the last 10 years, I think I was only ready to do the tapering process because I had healed myself through food, and like rearranging, I'm gluten free. I rearranging so many areas because I have candida and all this inflammation. So when I rearranged, like getting rid of refined sugars and, things that are just clearly like not good for my body, I started thinking to myself, like, well, what is in this thing that is causing me to be addicted to it? We don't ask these questions, and it's like, well, why, how did we all get so, convinced that this approach is the only way to treat things? And, it's interesting because when you do go into the natural, area, you start realizing that it's ancient, right? You have India supporting this, China support, all this all these herbs and everything. And it's just such a beautiful thing because when you open that door, it suddenly is like, hey, the more you want to learn, the more is here for you, probably the better off you're going to be. That's real knowledge where, and it's putting the power into our hands, right? Whereas the Western approach, again, it's that sense that, well, we have all these doctors with degrees, so they're the ones in charge, and how to steer your health. And I do agree. I mean, listen, I've had operations, you know what I mean? I had cesarean for my child. I had 2 operations on my wrist. I was so thankful that these things existed, but we need to figure out what is really necessary and what isn't. And I'm sorry, but psychiatric medicine is a joke. It's a scam.
Right.
It's
a scam.
Tell me a little bit about, we're talking about these different concepts of healing, and you do energy medicine as well. Now, for the listeners who don't even know what that is, can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes. So the energy medicine or energy healing, it's a modality that's, I don't know, maybe even more than ancient. Yeah. And it's just utilizing not just your own vibration, your own life force, but the life force of the universe, and channeling it to help yourself or help someone else. And what it looks like, it might look like someone's like meditating. In part it is meditation because you're really focusing on what you're doing, but it's really channeling. It's invisible, basically. I mean, unless some people can see it, some people can see energy. But it's just moving the usually invisible life force from yourself, from the universe, to help someone else's vibration. And we have multiple layers to us that people can't usually see. So everyone can see pretty much, unless you have a sight issue. Everyone can see your physical body, but this is the last body. You have many invisible bodies that radiate outward infinitely. We have our mental body, our emotional body, and then infinite spiritual bodies. So when someone does energy healing, that's what you're connecting with. You're connecting with the energetic bodies. And there's so much within our energetic bodies that we hold on to. We don't even know we're holding on to it. Just like it could be thoughts, memories, like even the concept of like, maybe you don't remember something, but you were around something traumatic, like right. That leaves an imprint on your energy.
Right.
People don't realize that. And then also, if you want to go like more spiritual, there's also like karma and past lives, things that you have carried with you into this life, or things that you carry through from your ancestors.
Right.
So doing the energy healing is I think I have found for myself, and I have seen with my clients, it's a very helpful way of healing. I think no matter if you struggle with mental health or not, I think right. It's a great thing to check out.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I mean, and what kinds of things, under what umbrella, like say if somebody wanted to research more about that stuff, like where do they even begin?
Yeah, it's kind of hard, but I think there's a lot out there. I think like how I kind of got into it was I saw somebody, I was looking for someone who would do shiatsu.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at the time I was doing a really intense dance training program. And I didn't really have time to take any breaks because it was like every day, a lot of dancing, a lot of studying. But I went to this lady who I thought she could do shiatsu. And she said, yeah, but if I do shiatsu, you're going to have to rest because like, what it brings up in your body, you really need to rest for a few days before you go back to physical activity. So she said, can I do energy healing on you? And at that point, I was so like, whatever.
Yeah.
So like so much stress and so much pain. I was like, whatever. Okay. I don't even know what that is. Are you going to make me feel better? That's all I care about. And so she did the energy healing on me. And it was so crazy because she never touched me. Wow. But yet I felt like different areas of my body, like tingling, cooling. And I just felt after that, I felt as if I had a massage, wow. But I didn't.
That's incredible.
And and so she told me about crystals, and I kind of was kind of interested a little bit. I had heard about crystals, but I never really looked into it. But that's kind of how I started. I was like, oh, crystals. So I think I actually have a class. I should put it on my website. It's called Intro to Crystals. Nice. So I think starting with that might be a little bit more fun for people to get into energy, learning about energy.
And they can, so put it on your website. So any listeners who are interested in this, please go and find how you can take this course.
Yes. And yeah, it's at my website, thefreedomfairy.com. So it'll be there by the time this goes up.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, let me ask you, you also definitely went the way of food as medicine. So tell us, and that is really, I think, important for the state of mind that you were in with your ED. So certainly, this changed your life. Can you share a little bit about what you know about macrobiotics and how a person can eat to help balance their mental health on a daily basis? Like, what should they avoid?
Yes. Oh my gosh, there's so much to it. Some general things, of course, everyone is different, which I think the main part is your own awareness of what you're eating, how you're eating, how it makes you feel. That's the main thing. And then from there, of course, you can research other books, what other people say about it, but the main thing for mental health, avoid animal foods. That includes meat, chicken, eggs, dairy. Some fish is okay sometimes for some people. You can be very specific, but that's the general. And then also, white sugar, caffeine, processed foods. So, I mean, and this is in line with what, most research is now showing just for general health, so it's not that huge of a thing, but it's like, I think people still separate mental and physical health when it's like our mind is part of it's one. And a lot of people might say, well, I've been on this diet, I've been on that diet, and I was still depressed. Well, MacroBiotics is very specific. It's not like a random diet. I feel like a lot of diets they mostly address physical, whether that's health or whether that's just losing weight. They don't address what's going on inside of you, your energy, your mind, your behavior. MacroBiotics addresses that because it comes from ancient Chinese medicine. And if you guys have any experience with ancient Chinese medicine, they do talk about how the emotions are connected with the organs and different systems, and how the seasons are also connected with the different emotions. Like, everything is connected to our emotions, but I think that's a huge part of the missing understanding that a lot of people have about food.
Right. It's so true because I mean, I don't know if you ever saw that movie like Super Size Me back in the
Yeah.
day. Okay.
Yeah.
So that I remember now everybody when it first came out, it was like, oh my gosh, like, is that possible? Well, he proved it was possible that it
Yeah.
could affect him that much. But I also, being the mental health person that I was thinking to myself, this is so clear in the schools. They have all they offer the kids is sugar on every level. And then everyone wants to figure out like why are the kids acting the way they are, and then they
Yeah.
label them, and then they just not only are giving them sugar during the day, but then they're giving psych meds at night. I mean, like
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
these poor kids,
I know.
and it's so simple. It's like what you put into your body matters.
Yeah. I know I'm really happy you mentioned the children, and you mentioned them a few times when you were talking. Like, that is the main thing that motivated me to leave teaching ballet, because I saw my students. I worked with hundreds of children throughout my career, hundreds of kids. I saw their sweet little spirits, their unique personalities. But I also, I was worked at that studio long enough to see them grow up and go through changes. And I was like, man, I wish I could say something. And of course, the children, they don't have much power. It's what their parents are feeding them.
Right.
And also in the ballet world, it's such a touchy thing, because you say anything about food and, oh my gosh, you're promoting an unhealthy stereotype. And it's like, it's kind of a no-win situation, I feel like, in the ballet world.
Yeah.
But I just saw, like, the children need help. And me as a ballet teacher, I'm not in the position to help them in the way that I would like to. So I just thought, well, let me help the mothers. And so that's kind of like my audience, my target audience is women, because at some point, whether you plan it or not, you might become a mother.
Yeah.
And so I thought, if I help the women understand, how to take care of themselves and the power that women have to change the world. I mean, literally, if with their children, you're literally creating new life, a new generation. In that way, I can help the children. So that's my main thing.
That's great. I mean, it's a really great strategy too, to really affect as many people as possible, because the women, are often the meal creators at home, in a home life, so it is so good what you're doing. I have to just say, I am proud of you. Okay. Because I know what it's like when people throw their criticisms, really, really coming from a place of ignorance or non-compassion, or holding on to their status and field, and the defending that more than caring about the human suffering that's being caused by the field. So I think it's so great what you do. Now, personally, you mentioned a bunch of different things. Okay, energy healing, macrobiotics. I'm sure you're still dancing, right? So your dance probably provides you some kind of sense of like mental, satisfaction. What other types of things would you recommend to anybody out there who's having, say, a bad mental health day? Coping strategies.
Yeah. I mean, I still have bad days. So I don't, I'm still like, if anyone has some coping strategies for me, I'd love to hear that.
We all need them.
but I'm a lot better off. The really bad places are, further apart, and nice. I can come out of them and it's not. But I definitely, spending time outside is something that I think in a way I always felt, but I never thought of it as much as something to help me until I started, learning more about energy and food. So yeah, spending time as much as you can in nature. And like me, I live in Los Angeles, graffiti everywhere, cement everywhere. So I really have to plan, because before I lived in a very natural area, and it was so easy to be in nature. But since I moved in this area, I thought, I really have to plan and schedule, like make it a special trip to be in nature. So, I mean, just yesterday I went to a local farm, and they have like tours, and they tell you about like how they grow the different crops, and you get to pick your own carrots and whatever. And so it's nice. And then there's like different festivals throughout the year. Different kinds of produce is more in season, so they have like a lemon festival or whatever. And just like visiting, special natural places in your area. Like there's a couple hiking trails nearby. Even just like a park, a city park. There's some grass and some trees, and there's the sky, nature, just being in time in nature is so good. And especially like taking off your shoes and really connecting your feet with the dirt and the grass. That's a energy exchange. And nature, the vibration of nature is the same vibration. It's the vibration of love and the vibration of healing. It's all the same vibration. So the more you can connect with it, the better off you're going to be on so many levels.
Yeah.
There's also these flower essences. I'm sure you've heard of them. Flower essences. And it's basically the vibration of different flowers, and they kind of help. It's kind of like herbs, different herbs help you with this, help you with that. The flower essences also help you, and they're more marketed as emotional support. It's really awesome because they have so many different kinds, and you can see like, have confidence, be optimistic, all these things, have courage. So you can choose like whatever you feel like you need help with, and you can like mix them too. They come in a little dropper. And relaxing self-care, of course, meditation, massage, energy healing, and also the importance of getting oxygen in your lungs. Exercise. The more that you exercise, the more oxygen you have in your blood system, the better your mood is going to be.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I mean, you've come from a place of, you were rock bottom, you were at rock bottom, and you are living proof that with the change of thought, a change of scenery, a change of behavior, and incorporating all of these different modalities of healing, that we are in charge of our own lives. You know what I mean? And this is where I always was coming at it. I always felt the whole system as it is a social construct. And, back in the day when they were making all these labels, they didn't like certain types. And oftentimes the artistic sensitive types, or the people who could hear voices, and oftentimes that's, being so sensitive to those different levels of the spiritual levels that you were talking about, feeling those auras and those energies. I mean, we were just all written off. So there has never really been healing along those lines, those family lines. You pass that stuff down, that psychic pain, and we are finally coming forward and saying, listen, we deserve to be here. We deserve to live an autonomous life. So when I find people like you, I feel like there's so much hope.
Yes.
And I am not alone. Okay. So please keep doing what you are doing, and never feel frustrated. I mean, you got to feel frustrated, but I'm saying never let that get the best of you, because what you're doing is so important, and there's so many people that need our voices out there. So why don't you tell the audience every way they could get in touch with you and follow you? Tell us your social media handles, your YouTube channel, and again, your website.
Cool. Yes. My website is thefreedomfairy.com. My Instagram and my TikTok is both at _freedom_fairy. My YouTube is the Freedom Fairy. And I also have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/the_freedom_fairy. And my podcast is MacroMagic with Michelle. But I'm sure if you just type in the Freedom Fairy MACRObiotics, you'll find me on Google. You'll find me everywhere.
Yeah, she's got a lot of fun stuff. And I love your YouTube channel. It's so like lively. I mean, what I like about your YouTube channel is that you have so many things on there. I mean, and you've been doing it for a while too, right? It's like been like a decade you've been on.
Yeah, it's been almost 11 years now. Yeah, I start, and the cool thing, friends, everyone listening, you can go back to my first YouTube videos and see my journey. When I started my YouTube channel, I was on medication. I was in college, I was on medication, and you can see my transformation off the drugs, getting better, eating better, you know, and to where I am. It's all right there. The proof is on my YouTube channel.
That's right. That's right. And not everybody was able to do what you did, like record it and to show, like, you know, people sometimes they need that evidence in front of them. You know, I've only been heard, again, I've been talking about this for a long time, but I've only been heard within the last, say, it's almost 2 years coming up on my anniversary. Actually, not even. It's in November, 2-year anniversary for the podcast. That's the only time when people were just like, oh, let me see what you have to say. Because it's actually like when you put that energy towards recording and putting it out there for people, it brings it to the next level. It's information that's invaluable for anyone interested in getting off psych meds. And I'm just going to say this as a disclaimer, because as far as I'm concerned, nobody should be on psych meds. Right. But if you are, try to be careful with getting off, because you can. I've tried a couple times because I was trying to get pregnant, and that was a nightmare because I ended up back in the hospital and on more meds. So it's like, these things affect your nervous system. So you can throw your nervous system into a state of distress if you do it too quickly. So I would just encourage people to find ways to titrate and see if you could get even a general practitioner involved with helping you just, you know, order medicine little by little and in smaller and smaller increments. And that sometimes includes, you know, a compound liquid, or people also use weighing scales. So, but it is possible, and it is the way to a more independent life, because that's the other thing. Once you don't have to deal with these people anymore in this field, it's so freeing. I mean, I still have a therapist, but he's like a dream analyst, and he's so like against psychiatry that it's like he's the person that's, I feel like, thank goodness, you know, I mean, I stumbled upon him, but I really couldn't do it with the way the system is now set up. So if you feel overwhelmed, you want to throw in the towel, listen to MacroMagic with Michelle, because a lot of different episodes point to her going through this very difficult process. And you know what? It's the way to go. I'm sorry. It is.
Yep. I agree 1,000% with everything you said.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us and for giving us your voice. You know, you have your own fans, but now my fans can hear you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Not As Crazy As You Think, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And remember, mental health is attainable for anyone, especially those labeled with mental illness. Until next time, peace out.